Hey, welcome.
Welcome.
Another episode of
The Super Data Brothers.
All right, I am Brother Ryan.
I am Brother Eric.
And we are two real-life brothers who work
true.
in the data and analytics industry. So what do we got queued up today? We have Chris Tabb, the co-founder of Leap Data, and the man patrolling the mean data streets, keeping us safe from all sorts of heinous data crimes out there.
Yep. And you know, Ryan, I'm so excited for today's show because we met Chris back at Day-to-Day Austin, right? And he's
Texas.
just super
Day-to-Day Texas.
No, isn't it called Day-to-Day Austin in Texas?
No, it's Day-to-Day Texas.
In Austin. Okay. Well, we met him. We met him at that conference a few months ago, right when we started this show. And you know, just a super cool guy. And then he gave a talk about like the history of BI and analytics, and it was super interesting. I think it's especially relevant now because OLAP's back, I guess. You know, OLAP was the main thing. OLAP disappeared. OLAP's back, and Chris has got great perspective on all of that. You know, so that's why I think today's going to be an especially interesting show.
Lynn Bender, who is the organizer of Day-to-Day Texas, assures us in the chat that it is Day-to-Day Texas.
Okay, all right. It's in Austin. Okay, Day-to-Day Texas.
But it is in Austin. That's important.
It is in Austin.
To know. All right, so let's go ahead and let's not waste any more time. Let's bring Chris on. Now, one last thing I will remind you, this is a live show. So if you have questions, get them into the chat.
Or criticisms.
Yeah, right. So that we can, Chris and the two of us can address them. All right. So, Chris, welcome.
Welcome.
What an intro. I love the music. I love the enthusiasm of the two brothers. So I'm a brother from another mother. I'm from the UK. So we were just commenting on, we've got a variation of different hairstyles here today. So I don't have one. And these two guys have got different ones, even though they're both brothers.
Yeah, we're really pumped to have you on. So, one thing I think we maybe could kick this off with. Eric mentioned the presentation you gave at Day-to-Day Texas about kind of it was like the "How did we get here" presentation. And one thing I want to get your take on to start is like, suddenly. It feels sudden to me anyways. Suddenly everybody's talking about concepts like semantic layers and OLAP and all this sort of stuff that for old timers like the two of us, these are not new ideas. So, but they're having this big comeback. Like where is this coming from? Why are we talking about this again?
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail. The people have been around from the beginning, and you saw we had to build from then. It got lost in that big data era, and I think the ratio of us veterans, should we say, to people that missed that stage, missed that what I call the data warehouse era. I think we referred to it referred to the data warehouse era on that presentation, but it was the basic era. It's when you didn't have many moving parts, and then what you had to do with a limited budget, and things weren't cheap then, and things like requirements and pre-planning was essential because you'd never go and get the budget to go and do these things before. So that was lost in that big data era, and most of the engineers that have come into it, because unfortunately, by the time modern data stack, I was no longer an engineer. I used to call myself an ETL developer, and that's not, well, I've called myself many things, but that was your job title back then, and that got reinvented, and became the data engineer role. But what they were doing, I suppose, took took like influence from the DevOps world that was very much underpinned that big data era, and blended that. But people forgot about the things of data modeling, and I think you talk about my activity on LinkedIn is sometimes a bit ranting. It's driven by, hey guys, come on, look, we've been here before. Let's not just come up. Give it a new name if you want, but let's not forget that this is what it was born from. Take influence, upcycle it, make it more modern, but don't just say, look, this is brand new. Look at what I've invented. No, you haven't. Okay, and I think you get more people involved, or more people on that journey with you are going, look, this works well then. We've added these additional features onto that capability. It works better for us now in this environment. Why don't we just look to the past to innovate for the future? And I think there's maybe a better thing. People want the kudos to being the person that first goes and does this stuff. But go back to datastreets sort of hashtag is, I don't want the kudos anymore. I'm too old. All I want to do is just make that data world a little bit easier to work in. People understand why you're doing things, and ultimately what our role is in the bigger picture. There's a companies are here to make money. We're all a cog in that engine, and knowing your place in that, and knowing how that is adding business value, and knowing you're adding business value is going to make you a happier person. Well, happier than I have been in my career anyway. So I've never been a bit angry over my time of seeing these atrocities of wasted cash, or new projects being started for just the sake of a new buzzword that's out there, and thinking, is it really new? Are we really changing anything, or is this modern data stack 2.0, 3.0, which leads into that presentation that I split it up into 3 eras and then focused on that modern data stack part of it. And and I think what was modern 10 years ago from those combination of products out there isn't modern now. But if you slap a 2.0, 3.0, say this is the modern data stack 2022 edition, and just looking at seeing where the vendors are moving up and helping. I like to use the term reducing friction and getting value. If you're able to look to say, okay, I don't need 3 tools to do that thing I did before. Go with reverse ETL. I mean, that's something I think I bring up in that presentation is, and I go back to the days of my beginning of being Informatica or Data Stage, or some of those early edition ETL tools that are out there. If someone said, right, by the way, guys, we're going to use Data Stage to load the data in, and we're going to use Informatica to take the data out, and can you sign off on the license of both of them? My jaw would have dropped, and I would have sacked, if they worked for me, I would have sacked the 2 architects and banged their heads together. And and obviously I'd gone through HR and go through the referral processes, obviously, and on the spot. But soon after that meeting, the ball would have been rolling.
Yeah.
So, and it's we challenge, and Lauren Ballock is a great voice. Well, I was on LinkedIn, but a great voice in this industry of calling out what she sees as the atrocities. And we both shared some jokes around, if I want to get a car to go to work and a car to get back from work, can I have an Aston Martin to take me in? Can I have an Aston Martin convertible to take me out?
Yeah.
Or available in US versions as well. Maybe I don't know, Corvette or something. Maybe a convertible version.
That's very true. I was I got in an argument with ChatGPT about reverse ETL, where I was like, explain to me why I need 2 different tools for this, and it came up with this library analogy, and one tool takes the books out of the stacks and gets them to people, and the other tool takes it from people and puts it into the stacks. And I said, can I just use the same book cart, right? Do I need 2 different book carts? And I couldn't get the our future robot overlord to agree with me that they're really the same thing. But
well, let's sack it then, because obviously it doesn't always do it as an architect. So, well, maybe architects' roles are safe a bit longer because we have the voice of reason and sanity, whereas maybe ChatGPT's been trained on some bad data.
Yeah, absolutely. So what one of the things you mentioned in there was like this idea of doing like getting value out of data, and what is the story, from your perspective, like what is the story of that journey over the last few years, and like what have we realized about this?
So, and I think it's the complication of the landscape now has made it harder to measure and evidence value. And I think anyone knows anything about running a business, I think business optimization. If you can't measure it, you can't optimize it. So however big your company is, with our own company, with larger companies, it gets more complicated. But if you can't measure something, you can't optimize it. It means you don't actually know the value that it is giving or not. And it may be not be. It may be giving you value. You might be accidentally making money. There can be companies looking at their balance sheet and go, look at all the money we made from these channels. Actually, most of it was on currency conversion of holdings, but they wouldn't have had maybe that level of detail to evidence that the real value is the pound was weak against other currencies, but we had a holding elsewhere. So without having that full understanding of that granularity of data would have given you that information. That would be more value to know that, oh, guys, we've got to change something because the currency could go the other way. There's a risk associated to that. And I think depending on where you are on part of that ecosystem or part of that data team, and this goes back to when there was just a small amount of team. So when I started, I had to put the CDs into the data center to go and load on the Cognos edition 8 or maybe ReportNet back then,
yeah,
or even impromptu web version or anything like that. So we haven't built the stack of looking at, okay, I need this many DL380s with the DL580 compacts, so this is going to be my web server. I had to understand all of that. Don't ask me to go and do that now on Amazon, but I understand the concept. And then I felt I had to go and meet the users and say, right, okay, what do you want to measure in this car manufacturer at that time? Oh, I want to be able to look at how each of these dealers are performing against each other. I want to optimize my team's time to go and spend maybe have a nice dashboard with some KPIs to show green, red, amber, which will show where they should focus their time on the dealerships. Where are they not performing? I did this in the 90s. No, maybe early 2000s. Okay, so but I had to have that whole piece. I had to build the ETL. I had to do the data modeling. I had to write the BI tool. I had to do the semantic layer. Again, which was invented by business objects. I think is the one it came from, licensed to IBM or to Cognos, and then challenged, and then after that just became a. There you go. It's just your metadata layer. So we'll go on to semantic layers. They've become a new form of whether it's a shared or vendor only, but having one was always needed. Having to have a shared one is maybe because of the complex landscape. You didn't have that before, but you had a semantic layer. But you had to understand every single part of that. You had to also do the deployment, script it. You had to have the batch. You had to link it into a schedule. So the orchestration was there. So, and with a team of 3, we knew how to do that. Those 3 people are actually the fellow co-founders, the 2 other co-founders of this company. So we've all been there, and I think this is why we've been able to build a team and easily navigate who's need to do what on that whole engineering capability. So if you think of right, okay, now it was very easy to understand that. Take that to the modern world. Different departments making different decisions, wanting to be more agile, ability to spin up clouds. They didn't have to go and do the requirements to understand what they needed to build. So they just went and built whatever they had to do based on that sprint. So agile sort of like affected it. Ease of spinning up compute, and the rest of it affects it. So going back to that value. So now to assess value, before it was an ROI. By the way, we're going to buy this big X data. It's going to need this one tool. It's going to lead the data in. It's going to load the data out. That does that. Governance, it's a spreadsheet, this is who's doing it, and there's something there. Data modeling, maybe you'd use back then Oracle data modeling, did the job. So you had not too many moving parts. You'd already done the assessment. This is what it's going to cost. This is what it's going to give as a business. Okay, right. The value is assessed. Very easy. Now you've got cloud compute from different layers, which you have no control of what's spinning up. You don't even know what load is going on. You don't know who's using it. You then got different license agreements that maybe are commitment levels in one area that some other department's done. They've got to build another tool which does the same thing. You've got multiple tools going. Understanding now, the key thing that you're making money from is the data. How many tools is that data touching on that journey? Who's doing it on which piece of it? What's the cost of that individual? Then off that, you come into where you can assess the value of that data. Now it's being used. Okay, nice semantic layer. I know, understand that person's using it. It's linked to this business process. And I think the missing link at the moment is being, we talk about meta, I talk about metadata. So we know all about this metadata. We know how to join it up together with some forward thinking and minimizing the amount of sources for that. You can link up how you put that metadata together. You can start doing some analysis on usage. I think another thing I talked about is, I hate the word observability, but okay, it's got everyone being really buzzed up about, yeah, let's get an observability project. But if you called it, it's a data quality and monitoring product with some logging information, you go, we don't need that, you know.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the budget for that one. How much? No. Oh, observability. So we have a lens and looking at everything going on in one place, because now we've got so much to look at, we need it. But ask each of these monitoring or observability tools, what are you monitoring? And each of them will be doing a different thing. Okay, so do I need a monitoring collective monitoring tool to look at everything I need to monitor, or because I can't find one product does it all? So I think I defined 6 levels. And yeah, and you know, I think there's probably sub levels within there. But if you look at the layers of a modern data stack, and so this is one of the value things you need in. So for example, going back to that core thing, business value. So you have the costs and you have your income from it. If you can't find out your costs, you don't even know if what you're selling at is the right price to work out if you're making anything from it. And easily could just shut it off. You know, turn off your data program because you make more money because you're not having it, and go blind because you're going blind anyway. I'm pretty sure that isn't. Don't do that, by the way, please. That's not provided. But the flip side is, okay, until you've got that observability lens of everything, it's very hard to either work out your cost and who to charge that cost back to. So if you look at the levels of monitoring, I call it the level 1 will be your application performance monitoring. So this will be looking at any of your EC2, your compute, your storage, your networks, your egress, your ingress, your API calls, looking at that from a performance. But at the end of the day, you want to link that performance to actually you've done that. But that's your lowest level. The next one is you got your SaaS services. So all your software as a service that's sitting on top of that. Sorry. They have associated usage and costs associated, and also connectivity to some of the ancillary things you're talking about, the storage and network, the egress. So now you've got that next level of metadata. You go the next level above that, you've got your connectivity. So you've got your DAGs, your schedules, your streams, all those things that are now calling out to that stuff, and they're going hopefully they're going in the right order. Maybe you actually got things running afterwards, which means they're not getting the latest thing. So you haven't even got the dependencies correct. That is an optimization that you wouldn't have known about until you had that connectivity layer. Then you go the next layer up. You've probably, how many layers have we gone to? Is that the 5th layer?
This is level 4 now, I think.
So that's okay. So right. So now you've got content is the next one. So content is right now. I've got that connectivity. What is going through that? Way in, way out. Is it all getting there? Any rejects in the old ETL days where it rejects from my lookups and things? Is it all going across? Yeah, okay, right, it is. Now let's look at the quality. So level 5. But quality's probably got quality at the time and then quality over time. Because if you have quality checks that pass it at that point, and maybe, we get the odd null, so nulls are allowed, but 90% are all coming in. You're making a decision doing an algorithm based on some profiling of the groups of codes that are going through. 3 months down the line, you're getting 90% nulls. Is that decisioning process still correct based on the profile of that data? No, it's not. You would want to know that your data is degrading in its original level, but you can't do that over time. So you've got that quality lens. And I think actually, Ryan, it was your comment on there that gave me this one, which meant me. So thank you for the collaboration. Great,
you're welcome.
A great recommendation for LinkedIn of putting your ideas out there, because people help refine them. And I think this is going back to doing these shows now. It's all about collaborative ways. If we all start thinking the same way and start maybe shaping where the vendors go in these things, because we have the power now to say what we want rather than vendors saying this is what we've got. And if we say that these are the things needed, and I think sitting on some advisories of some as well, helping shape where they go in, for really is a, I suppose, commercial one side, but is just filling the gaps we've got, making that life easier on the mean data streets. So the next one, as you say, is who, how, and what. So that's why I had to push my two quality ones into the same level. So there you go. So it wasn't. It's a 6 now. It's because we've got six and everything else. So I like to keep things at 6. So so it's, and then if you've got all of those things and in a way that then is consumable, you're building any data products. You're then helping a team price up. This is what we're selling our data for. You're able to then say, by the way, because you've packaged all that up, and because I know that that's happening that way, and you've done that, I can now offset your cost, your OPEX cost that's going into your cost center, Mr. Data Cloud Manager. I can now recharge that back to everyone that's using it. Do you know what? I'm going to put you a premium on it. I'm going to give you some data tax. All right. So I'm going to stick you 10, 15% premium on, because you've done such a great job of being able to evidence the usage of it. There you go. Here's a premium because you've added value to your team. Your team can go and blow it on a team night out, or maybe reinvest it in some more innovation. But it goes back into their cost center as a, hey guys, look, we're not seen as that big OPEX cost. And when people are coming down to try and, reduce our costs, please, where would you like to reduce them? Because you reduce this, I'm reducing that value I'm giving to that data product. So back to that cog of the wheel, which is a long way to get back. And I'm surprised I remember when we started the conversation, actually. So it's that cog on the wheel of, right, now, Mr. Cloud Manager, all right, you're doing a great job because you're able to make that money come back in to help that innovation to do that next thing that you think is going to add some more value. Maybe it's like, by the way, I'm not going to tell the departments I've got to save their thing by putting them in a Kubernetes container. I'm actually sharing the workload across them because I've got nice pods in there with separate thing, and I'm linking it to business processes. I'm actually selling their data to someone else now, but now they're sharing the same computer. Well, I'm not saying fictitiously to you, but you then go next time on your board pack, say, by the way, for the same money, now I'm actually generating more. I'm more cost efficient because I use that money to invest to go and do this. By the way, if you give me more money to invest, I'd actually be able to do you cross DR thing to prevent things, to actually help you on a risk thing. Now we're in a position to focus on risk optimization. And I suppose the reason why I'm speaking quite fluently about it, doing a lot of thinking about this at the moment, and doing a book with Matt Housley on business value. So, and being my day job and what I do is, this is what we do for our clients. And if we can try and help educate people, and this is why you're doing it, this is the role you're playing. If you play that role well, we're going to get more value. And people worried about what ChatGPT is going to do to their career or their role, and think, look, there's plenty of other stuff for us to do. I don't have to go in and put a CD into a data center now. And I still got a job. I'm still doing all right. So just think about how we can use our time more effectively and cross that line. Everyone think that even in the IT department, you're there to make money for the business, and knowing that there is a customer at the end of the other stage. And if you're sitting there and you all know what your salaries are, all right, and you sit there day in, day out, that comes from somewhere. And unless it's actually you're working directly for a business or knowing where you are helping that business, you're just an overhead. So it's good for you to know how critical you are in that company, and what a pivotal role. It will help your motivation. Why you get up every day. I'm doing it because I know that without that, the world's going to come crashing in, or I'm not going to get my bonus.
Yeah, Joe, friend of the show, Joe Reese says mean data CDs here.
Yeah, I mean, you can even go back to, well, I suppose after the mean data seeds, there was the mean data iPod.
A few years ago, I managed to track down a copy of Impromptu on floppy disks. And I gave it. My dad was a Cognos guy. Our dad, I should say.
Yeah.
it's two of us share a dad.
Yes, we are brothers.
Even though I worked at Cognos as well, it is no. Well, I don't think. I checked with my dad. He's pretty sure he's mine. But yeah.
I gave it to him for Christmas. He unwrapped this boxed copy of Impromptu on floppies.
Was it version 3.1 or 4.1? Was it the version 5?
I can't recall. I think it was a 3.
It must be, because I think by 5 it was on CD definitely, and I think 4 as well. I used to pack them in the office in Bracknell back in the day.
So what? Let me ask you this, because you're really right. Like there was. We talk about old things that have come back, right? And I think this like value is one of them, because when you used to be ordering before, like as a precondition of building an enterprise data warehouse, you had to order a $5,000 or $5 million piece of equipment from Oracle.
Yep.
There was a lot of value checking that went into that. Now you've talked about like the layers of observability, and I'm really curious, like how many of your clients or your prospects do you think are taking observability seriously at this point, or really have a handle on that?
So I don't think any of them are doing it to the level that I think it can be done at.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the right approach. It's all based on is it based on what's needed at this particular point and what particular pain point is for each different client, depending on the size and the industry. So if you think of what drives things in this current market as well, it's either mitigation of risk. So basically it's security, because basically there's a too much of a concern, or it's mitigation of associated costs at the moment. And I suppose the other area that I'm seeing a big movement in, and that is a mitigation of impact of new technologies. So what the impact is of ChatGPT, AutoGPT, and all those things to companies. And we've seen, some companies value being wiped off over the weekend.
Yeah.
From $4.80 to $10 or a share. I can't remember. I'm not going to be accused of shorting and things like that. Check the LinkedIn posted the other day about it. It's all public domain. But what's the next industry that's going to suffer from that? So they're the things that are driving that. And I think observability, and I'll go back to slightly further than that and say metadata. So the collection of different parts of metadata is where companies are focused on, from either a business process optimization or a cost optimization or a security or risk mitigation. So they're the three levers that I think are out there at the moment for people with the purse strings to actually make decisions at the moment. And there's probably an order in which ones they are, because security will probably get the lowest value one, even though maybe it should be higher prioritized. But maybe you can get some of the benefit from that by using some of the other two levers and get that security. If you have a good advice and approach of how you can actually, get to business value by using vehicles of other activities to help underpin maybe security at the same time. But I think the other one is that business process part. And Joe's listening as well, and that big focus on data modeling at the moment. I think last year was when I did the hashtag bring back data modeling, and that was just because I was annoyed at people saying the modern data stack's dead because no one does the data modeling. It's not the modern data stack's fault. You forgot how to data model. Yeah. And there's definitely, and I think you're right. I don't know how I see it is that maybe I just see things like, we used to do this before, and then maybe on a drunken night I get a rant out, and then it gets the momentum of shared views. And this is what I think I love about LinkedIn is, we're not one voice's thing, but a shared voice that's all agreeing with it. You can make a difference, and it's better hearing it than a vendor banging on about it and knowing reason why we're doing it and why you're saying it. So that, I think that is now moving to other levels of data modeling. So talk about business process modeling. I think one of the opening things I said earlier is if you can't measure it, you can't optimize it. So having that business process and understanding there is a business process. The problem is it's a bit of a not many people do it. The only times I've seen it really being done historically was when a big transformation, digital transformation. We've merged companies, VC led. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to merge these two companies, and they always take twice as long as people expect because you need so many manual processes. But you do get that map. They're never maintained well, I don't think. Afterwards, after that, it's used for a transformation, and it just goes. I think that's the next thing. But any of the challenger organizations or ones that are able to do things properly from the beginning and say, look, maybe they read a playbook of how to do this. I'm like, okay, well, these are the things that are needed. If you put these things in place and good foundations, and from the start, how you onboard a customer. Onboard a customer is many stages. It's very much known in the finance market because of anti-money laundering and things like that. You have to do it. But in companies, you don't have to. If you still mapped it out, you can look at how you can speed up that onboarding process. You can look to see where once that onboarding process goes through into an e-commerce change, how you can affect abandoned baskets better, how you can actually have personalized messages going to maybe how you can utilize ChatGPT or AutoGPT to have a nice chatbot that's styled in based on a Morgan Freeman maybe or something like that. So you get a nice tone to the reply as well. So that's I think the bigger movement at the moment is that business process thing. You link that onto your data model. You link that onto where that data's come from, the cost of bringing it in, how many times it's used, how you've added open source data, and by doing that, your data is worth more value than it would have on its own. You now have a marketable product. You now have a differentiator in the market. Yeah. Where do we start that one?
I don't know. It's we're going all over the place here on Super Data Bros. No, it's good. It's one of my questions is, and I've been thinking about this a lot. And I think I have a feeling you'll have some good insight on this. Is everything used to be so designed in the data world when we started out, right? I feel like a lot of the companies I've talked to and the people I know, it seems like their data practice has just kind of emerged from a bunch of stuff they happened to acquire over the last 4 or 5 years, in kind of the big data era where money was cheap and, hey, the modern data stack approach of like, hey, there's this point solution. We can acquire it at a low acquisition cost. It's a SaaS product. Let's just fire it up. And how do you go about rationalizing all this stuff? Like suddenly, let's imagine you're at a place where it's been, oh yeah, data is a big priority of ours, but we honestly don't have any idea what we're doing with it. We're just investing in it. We've got all these tools, we've got all these practices, and suddenly, it's like the record skip, and now you're being asked to justify what you're doing and actually impose some limits and designs on it. Like, how do you start thinking that way?
So there's two trains of thoughts I come there, and one is the old role of the architect. So we'll park that one because I think that's going to make a comeback, and I think the other one is just a chain of thought there. So it was the the role of the architect. But let's stick with the role of architect first, because I forgot the other one. The other one was more interesting, I think. But I think yes, the role of the architect. So we've lost that navigator. I think I'd like to refer to them now as well. Is that person that's telling you where you need to go, and we've had too much. Just get it done, building sprints, engineers just build stuff. That product owner that probably doesn't have that bigger picture of where you need to go. So that role of the architect, he knew the destination you were going. So he's that best person of that navigator. So the other one is how you assess the value. The other one was, I think, is the KPIs of KPIs. So And I did something with, I've got a meeting with him tomorrow. Actually, Ron Edelman, I think he does some good cartoons, and so a good guy I've chatted to a few times. And I did a post about, what you want is the KPI of KPIs, and I think that leads on to that observability piece, and that's exactly what you said, the how, who, and why. So imagine you're doing a big transformation. You've got 16,000 reports out there, and it's going to cost X much to do the migration. You think, my God, it's going to. But you then do a little pre-discovery, get some of that logging information. Maybe what you say is that what we need to do is, if we put this in place, I can get some usage of it. I get the use of it, and we'll turn off anything that hasn't been used in 3 months. If they haven't been used in 3 months, not going to know about it. Okay, we can archive it off another 3 months. They haven't come back. It's within our retention policy period by then. We've not been to keep it anyway. Bam, we haven't have to migrate it. So I think that's one, is like, it's an audit of what's out there. So that's one. I think there's one correct way. Do an audit and then rectify it. Depending on how bad your situation is, get that architecture oversight. Get them in part-time. Get someone in that knows what they're doing, and say, right, by the way, guys, look, it's a 3 to 6 month journey you're on. Right, I'll come back then. You'll work out, pivot where you need to go from now. But here's some milestones. Each of these milestones, you can then go to the board. You've added value on that particular thing. And maybe you're looking at the end dates of these license agreements you've got. You're looking at, okay, that's combined with the usage of that one. I think there's many ways of slicing the elephant, and you just work out what's your way of keeping the stakeholders on that journey, because you lose them, you've lost it, you're moving on to a new job. And even if you had the best ideas and the best polished architecture diagram and the rest of it, it was the right thing to do. You need to have corrective measures that get you to that right thing. It may not be perfect, but you're going to have to take people on the journey. You want to retire one of the tools, you're going to have emotional attachment to the team that had the other tool, so you're going to have to go, all right, let's do it in a way that I retain that knowledge still. They understand why we're doing it. They get their cross training. You give them a shiny carrot to aim towards. So that's that role of that strategy, so architecture lens, that will get you to the right place. And they can't be a purist because you'll never get there, and you can't be too yee-haw, because you can't move every direction. So you got to keep close to a path, and vary off that path as little as possible, but gradually at every overnight camp, using that analogy, you've achieved some value on that part of the journey.
Yeah, that was definitely a role when I first started my career. As a developer on a BI team, and like we lost Chris.
We lost Chris.
Well, as I was saying, when I first started, that data architect role was a really, like, we had two actually at the place I started my career as like internal resources who were full-time. Wonderful for having me. Welcome back, Chris.
Welcome back.
That was a quick break. No, I accidentally swiped on the screen and it closed the laptop. It closed. There you go. I won't keep my hands away from the keyboard.
Mm-hmm. No, I was just saying, when I started my career, I think we had two data architects. When I was just like BI developer one, right? Mm-hmm. My job was to build Cognos reports, and that was it. And we had two data architects on the staff, and I feel like that has really become like something that companies oftentimes they don't really have it, and then they realize, oh, we need someone to come in and help us with this, and they reach out to someone like you, to say, hey, come in and like make sense of what we've done and impose some order on it. And I wonder if we'll see a return to that role as like a actual full-time employee.
I think. Yes, I think there should be at least one of them on there, a full-time one that's constantly being your navigator, that can call in specialisms at different points. Because the days of having the luxury of having, a specialist cloud architect, a specialist data pipeline architect, especially observability architect, they're things that you can get that as long as you have that person that has that vision. That I think let's call them a data navigator rather than data architect. Maybe that will be a name. So. They're there making sure that you're going the right way, using the observability products they've got to make sure they're going the right way, using the business stakeholder requirements, make sure you're going the right way, and advisory capabilities that are needed and as and when. I think something, this business we've grown, we couldn't afford to get a CFO full time at the beginning. We couldn't afford to get a legal full time, but we got the right people at the right time at the right level that have helped us when we did need to do that. I think it's the same with getting an architect. It is, if you can't get one now, at least get some advisory piece to tell you this is where you're going. It maybe you're doing great, but know now before you go another 6 months, 9 months, 12 months down there, realize, oh, we're tied into now. We've been too sticky with it. Oh, we've not been able to migrate to something else now because we've gone down a dead end. That means that it's not transferable. I think that lens I always like to throw is business services and capabilities that link to technologies. Right, your business doesn't change that often. What it does as an organization, especially something long one, you're doing what you're doing. All right. How you do it and what you do it. Don't start talking about, oh, it's going on to the Informatica process or it's going on to the Fivetran process. No, it's going on to our data ingest process, which is delivered by something you don't need to know. You have that capability. We have that capability. Something that we've built recently is 6 assessment frameworks. So data maturity assessments. So each of those frameworks is a different lens on your organization, and you don't need all of them, but it's understanding where your pain points are. And from that, it may lead to, if you want to level up here, you've got to go and look at this over here. For example, there's one which we call the innovation framework. So it looks at data readiness. Have you even got a data ops process? No, you haven't. Let's look at our data ops assessment, which is your data enablement assessment. All right, you've got all these things. How are you doing? You need a data security lens. Okay, right. How are you doing your authentication, your role-based access controls? Is it tied tightly to it? Have you got an abstraction that means that you define security once and it's used across all of them? So each of those help clients understand the route to level up. And if you don't have an architect, I'd suggest maybe having something like this, and it'll give you a path of, right, this is how you increase your value, even of your department by doing that. It's how you move quicker, which gives you a better optimization. This is how you get your board on board to go and get an innovation piece of work rather than focus on that. Get the data prepared first. Get your best bang for your buck out of your data scientists. So we need to step back from just looking at technology, and it is about what is a business problem, what's the best way of solving it, what we've got, what could be an alternative, and what the options out there. And the mad landscapes become quite mad. You've got a lot of logos. Something that we used to use when we first started was we had a picture of that mad landscape, and you go, help us save you from the shiny sales reps and the shiny objects and the multiple meetings. Will help you navigate it. And I think this year we actually made it onto the mad landscape, which is quite ironic. So obviously, if you're looking at consultancy companies, focus on our logo. But there's lots of logos in there that are helping to exactly that. What we said, helping you navigate that big ecosystem. So you don't need to buy an Aston Martin to go to work and a different Aston Martin to get back. You can just get the one ETL tool. Well, or not spend the money on ETL tool and actually really buy the Aston Martins is an option if you can get away with it.
That's a good option. Yeah, that's my preferred. That's my consulting advice: is spend the money on an Aston Martin.
That's why I'm not CFO to the company.
Yeah, we joke on this show sometimes that we're giving people the skills to eventually get a Lambo. So
yes,
yeah. I wouldn't mind one actually, but I think I'm a bit too. I'm a Porsche man myself. You see, I think Lambo's a bit too flashy. If 10 years, 20 years younger, maybe I could have got away with it. Don Johnson style, maybe. It was Miami Vice.
I really, it's this one of the things this reminds me of is like I like to use the term data practice in particular because I think it more accurately encapsulates some of what you're talking about here, which is like, a practice is something that you do over and over again, and you aim towards perfection, but you recognize that perfection is unattainable, right? And that's kind of what I encourage people to think. How I encourage people to think about this is like, do the best you can, aim towards the ideal state, recognize that there will be deviations, and try your best over time. And lots of incremental improvements will add up to a huge difference a year, 2 years from now.
There was a post I reposted someone else's, and I'm doing something on a similar theme actually. I think later on today, and it was 365 days to the power of 0 equals 0, but I think 365 to the power of 0.01 is 37.7. Not that I'm that clever at maths, but I obviously read it. It just shows, just those baby steps. Stop the procrastination. Make sure you're going. But that's where that navigator comes in, that architect role. All right, it's no point making those baby steps the wrong direction, or if you're doing those incremental things, you're just going around in circles or not actually ending to that's the nirvana. What you say is the holy data place. Whatever you want to call it, where we're heading to. It's knowing it's having someone that's done that before. And I keep referring back to our business here as well. We're working. We have a chairman now that's done this before. Right? He's come in there. He's been here, done it before, and for me, it's a bit of reassurance. Oh, you're my navigator now for how we do this, because I've been playing that at the moment, because that's not my specialty. What my specialty is talking about data and helping strategies, delivering business value. That's what I love doing and where I should be focusing. But now I've got someone else saying, "Hey, Chris, make sure your sales thing's updated. Make sure your marketing team doing this."
Yeah.
Okay? But why am I doing it? Because of this, Chris. Okay, makes sense. But without, in any organization, if you don't know why you're doing it and you can't measure it, maybe you shouldn't be capturing the data about it at all. Maybe, and I think another thing is going back to your business strategy. So every company, I think I did a post about this the other day or last night. It was, if you go into an organization, you've got no team, no budget, no requirements. All right, so what do you do? Well, first of all, you find out, go to your company business strategy. What are you trying to do? What are your business values? What are you trying to achieve? Right, how do you measure if you're successful in those things? Okay, what data do I need to go and get that? Where do I get that data from? Maybe a technology, but it's the data I want, abstracted away from it's that Zoho report, it's that Salesforce report, it's my customer export that does this, and if you start thinking like that, your business strategy comes out. So your data strategy comes out of that, your backlog comes out of that, your prioritization of what you think is more important that's given to you by your board gives you a prioritization. It doesn't become that complicated. Well, obviously there are some complications.
Yeah, it reminds me of what Bill Inman said at Day to Day Texas, where we were talking kind of the conversation about business value and how do you know if what you're doing is valuable, and as an individual, right? Let's say I'm a ML ops engineer, or I'm a BI person, and Bill's advice was any time over his career that he knew how what he was doing either acquired customers, kept customers, or saved money, then he felt like his job was secure, right? And if he couldn't tie it to any of those things, then he worried. And I think that's sage advice from an industry legend.
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that, and it sounds very much like the journey that you brothers have been on, or Ryan's been on, definitely from the conversations, is you do a job to learn. You started as a BI developer, but you weren't happy to understand that. Same with me. I want to understand what's going on in the database because my report's not running quick. All right, now I know about index. I know about structure. All right, why don't I get that structure better? Who's that ETL developer this? Why did you do it that way? All right, I want to know that. Okay, what's that running on? What's the computer's code? All right, I understand that. Well, how can I move that to the cloud? All right, let's have a look at that. So, yeah, always question. And I think so. What kept me always interested on the mean data streets and took me to where I become this old guy that rants about these things that say back in the day is because I always want to find out every piece of it. And I think how I get my knowledge now and the information from is from the team that work for us. I always want to find out. And they teach me now, and I link that back, and well, hopefully, I think I teach them a bit as well. But it's that two-way street of passing that information back to say, this is the rationale why we did it before. You always learn from your mistakes, and if people our best thing is not to let people make the mistakes and say, look, this is what happened when I did that. This is the reasons for it. Take it or leave it. But I have no skin in the game or no reason why I'd be lying to you. But take it. They'll either learn the hard way or they'll take that. And I think what I've learned is from my mentors and my peers is I value their opinions, and I think, okay, well, they're telling me it for a reason. All right, it's not for a job promotion because they have there's no motive for them to do it apart from they want to, and as I do, trying to share what went well, why I've got the battle scars, why am I as angry as I am sometimes. And that's it.
What would be your top piece of advice to someone, a young person who's just starting in data right now?
Well, obviously, I'm going to say read The Fundamentals of Data Engineering by Joe Reese and Matt Housley. I think that is a very good place to start. I think from a technology, I think the thing is having passion for what you do. So, data is a big industry. There's many different roles in it. And I think I see too many people being pigeonholed originally as, I want to be a data scientist. It's the cool. They get paid the most. Is it really what you love doing? And best data scientists will probably understand the business. Do you like talking to the business? Do you like understanding the key activities of a particular role and see how it lends to your own personality, what makes you happy, what you enjoy doing? You'll progress much better in your career if you end up focusing on the things you really do like doing. And I don't get up in the morning and go, oh, great, I've got all these emails to answer. If they're not about something I enjoy doing it, okay, right, let's see if that person's got back to me. I'm interested in it. Let me see if there's you're motivated by something happening, but then you're going to put more effort in and you'll be more success. So don't chase the money with the job titles. Look at the different ranges of roles that are out there. I mean, I'll just pick a data engineer role and the different flavors of that. So how that's evolved over time. You've probably got 3 flavors of engineer roles I'll give you. So you've got one, a very DevOps focused, very code focused. You're scripting maybe in Terraform. You're using Sketch, using Cloudflare. You're right in the weeds of coding. You probably don't see the business very often. You won't get a chat with them, but you can nerd out on the best scripting language out there. Maybe learn a bit of Rust that's going to be out. Whatever. You'll get to do that, but that's the sort of activities you'll do in that part of the engineering role. If you're more about maybe understanding the data quality, understanding how data gets there, you'll be just an engineer that's cranking that data and maybe helping out deployments, have some interaction with the business from understanding what data is being used, but probably won't understand how that data is being used, and it'll be a slightly different skill set needed, bit more business understanding. But the next one would be an analytics engineer. You're now converting that, you're data modeling that, you're understanding, okay, you can wear multiple hats. But I think just starting there will probably give you a natural where your career path could be or what other roles you could go into. Being that unicorn that can do it all is great, but some people don't. Some people have a good understanding of accounts. Okay, I'd like to understand ledgers. Okay, I'd like to model of that. I understand. I think the more you start talking in that way, the more you go focus forward, maybe the ML stuff, the AI stuff, the data science stuff. So, yeah, choose your career path and where you specialize in, but have the foundations, have the undercurrents covered. So you know where everyone sits. That gives you a good route to become that product owner, that admin, that architect, navigator, as we've called it now. So work out what's the natural path your career river will take you as it carves through, and go for the path of least resistance. Don't always chase the money, because maybe you can get into it, and out of all of that skill, set your own business up doing something. And then you don't need to be the best of that. You need to know who the best people are and be able to get them together.
Yeah.
I'm not good at everything. In fact, I don't know what I'm good at nowadays. I'm kind of working.
I feel the same way. It's really important to actually, one of the things you said in there, to actually like what you're doing, I mean, and be honest with yourself about like, what do you like to do and what are you good at? And sometimes you know, the path is long and you can't see where it's going to lead. And I really feel like, you know, if you're doing something you enjoy, even if it's not, like you mentioned, data scientist, right, is obviously, oh, that's the best paying one, let's just all go for that. But if you don't enjoy it, if you're doing something you enjoy, you will often go farther.
Yeah.
Right. And 10 years from now, you'll be in a position of responsibility and ownership over important processes, and you will be making more than the data scientist because you chose the right path that you actually cared about and could influence.
And I think I'll give you another experience in my life and I might give away a bit too much about how. So it's don't chase a job title. So, you know, I had aspirations. I want to be a CTO. I want to get to that C-suite, you know, and get there is a lonely, horrible place. You know, you're dealing with stuff that is not cool stuff. You got no real decision over. The CFO tells you what you can spend. You know, you can't go and make the technical decisions you need. You got BAU business that needs to keep going. You know, your architecture, like, oh, I'd love to be able to do this. You don't get to do it. So, excuse me. So yeah, I think don't chase the job title, because you could be a much happier VP of something in a large organization that doesn't have to deal with some of the rubbish and actually be happier in what you do. But I suppose if you're your own company, you have to go on the C-suite. So I actually made it back again onto the chief commercial officer. So yeah, but I enjoy it now, so it's all right. I got some more control now.
I think one last question, Chris, because we're at the top of the hour here. I have to get the origin of the hashtag mean data streets.
So I think Fred, who I'm probably going to pop and see for lunch after this anyway, Fred Lansdowne, who he works for Gigaspace. You'll probably see his witty comments coming on many posts. He's probably online messaging stuff now I haven't seen. But I did again, one of my rants, and this is where I was called out of, you know, why do you think that is? And I don't know if people checked out my job history of, like, you know, how many jobs I've done and what I did back in the day, you know. And I think this is why, because of the battle scars I achieved on the data streets I grew up on the streets of data I grew up on. And I think Fred replied back to saying, yeah, that's the mean data streets that Chris grew. And I think I quite liked it. There's lots of play on it, you know. Mean data street, the mean data slopes, you know, mean data party. It works quite well, and yeah, there's a bit of fun in it, you know. And if you'll see that I am who I am, and I may be a little bit sarcastic and sometimes a bit irony in it, but you know, highlighting people learn in different ways and take on advice in different ways, and I always like to use the vehicle of humor and a bit of fun. And mean data streets is a good one, but I've got bring back series as well, but it gets complicated with different spellings. I bring back data modeling, which had 2 versions of it.
Yeah.
Bring back monetization. You got 2 ones of that. So because I'm flipping between London and New York mainly nowadays. So yeah, I've become a bit more American, so I have to do 2 hashtags for most things now. So data streets, at least it works in both sides, in your Brooklyn or in your east coast of Hackney, where I'm from in London.
Awesome. So where can people find you?
So, well, the hashtag mean data streets, I mean, follow that, because there's some good fun in there. There's a good back catalogue of stuff, which even I go back and look at and go, oh, that was quite funny. You'll obviously find us on, I am on Instagram, but I try and keep that a little bit more less data focused. Yeah. But your company website, www.leit-data.com. I think we're on Twitter as well. But yeah, go on the website. You'll find me on LinkedIn. There's not too many Chris Tabbs. And I do have my full picture on there now, not just me in a ski mask, so it's easy for
Awesome. And if you want to meet Chris and the Super Data Brothers in person, I would suggest you attend Data Day Texas 2024, which is coming up.
Austin in Texas. Yes.
Yeah, Austin in Texas, yes.
That's right. That's coming up in January.
Yeah, where I met you 2 guys back then. So I mean, I think we've obviously haven't spoken, I think, since then. So this has been It feels like just a chat anyway. Then, and by the way, we didn't do any prep for this before as well. So looks like we pulled it off. Just about.
Yeah. It's interesting being on a panel show with two real talkers. So
yeah,
it's like I just had to sit here. Really, just let you guys do all the talking.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, it was very
Oh
nice.
no, this has been it's been an awesome chat. Like very useful, very enlightening. I think.
Yeah,
enjoyed it. Really good fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to take some of this back because I work at a university. Try to learn these lessons I just learned on the mean data streets and take them back to share. So
no worries. But I mean, we might be not trademarked yet, but maybe we'll trademark this mean data streets.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right, Chris, take care.
All right, take care. Thanks.